I don't think that Rada is trying to get into the thinness game that's happening right now between Remarkable, the Go 10.3, and the new AI paper device. All of those are kind of shooting for that thinnest tablet. And not the Remarkable Paper Pro, but the original Remarkable 2 tablet. I think what they're doing instead is they're saying, you know what, we're going to give you the thinnest device we can that's also modular, repairable, and sustainable. And that's kind of a cool approach to take. But what they've done here that I think is really important is they talk about how the device differs from the A5X. So they do that straight comparison. And if you look, you can really tell a difference here on this edge at how much smaller it is than my A5X. And if we pop back for a minute, and I'll show you, I mean, this is it's a pretty thick device. It doesn't bother me because for me, the device is meant to replace a notebook. So I'm used to a notebook being about this size. So that doesn't really bother me as far as it goes from that perspective. But I can understand why the closer you can get it to that smaller pad of paper, the better for some people. And the portability piece obviously includes, you know, being able to make it more portable, fit it in a bag, and really do some different things with it. So you can see here they've got a regular notebook pad of paper. You can see the A5X was quite a bit smaller there. And then the A5X2 is even smaller. And then for here, it really kind of illustrates that difference as to how thin it is. Now, a lot of people are upset, or I shouldn't say upset, but they're disappointed that it isn't under 5 millimeters or that it isn't, you know, even smaller than that. But at the same time, I think it's important to understand what they're trying to do with this device. And you'll see here that they do say the thinnest edges are only 3.5 millimeters. And I think that's kind of cool. The Nomad, the thickness of the A5X2 is slightly thinner than the Nomad, which is 6.8. I think that's really, you know, showing that they're thinking this through and really trying to get even more in line. But, you know, what they say here is that the thinnest edge is only 3.5 millimeters. But I don't think they could do the modularity piece with making the entire device that flat. You sacrifice certain things. You have to have a thinner battery. You have to have a smaller battery. You have to have smaller components. So I think it's kind of a smart thing for them to have those edges be thin and then have it kind of bow out in the middle a little bit with that bucket. And it's not even a bucket. The new Remarkable went to a full-on bucket design. This is modular pieces, so you can take the thing apart, do some different things with it. So I think it's kind of neat to see here what it kind of looks like from that sideways perspective. And you can see it's 5.9, but then you get really thinner in other components. And I think this is just a neat little visual. You can't really see they're spinning it a little fast, but at the same time, it makes a lot of sense that they're trying to just show you that it's a lighter design. It's made of plastic, which I think is kind of cool. A lot of these are going to the more metal frames or staying with the metal frames, which if you haven't seen Roderick at Rants About Tech and what he did with some of the metal devices on a whiteboard, I'm still a little concerned they might fall off, but when they're full metal, the magnetic whiteboards, he puts them right on there and then does some cool stuff. I'll drop that down in the description after the live stream. But again, it kind of shows you from just kind of a unique perspective how that can look. Again, they're going with that plastic design that makes it not as heavy as something like the Remarkable Paper Pro or the Remarkable 2, but at the same time gives you some other things. Does it feature a clear back and modular? Great question, and I don't know. None of these visuals that I'm showing show a clear back. I don't know if Rada is going to do that or not. Quite frankly, I'm not sure, since it's a half folio design, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. I'm not sure that that would be effective on a device like this, because whenever you would be sticking it into a bag, whenever you would be putting it down on a surface, you might have some different issues around it scratching or getting all scuffed up. They haven't shown a crystal back. Here's where they show what the back looks like currently. And I think Voya will be really happy about this. They have the rubber feet that allow you to place it down without it moving. And I think that's kind of cool. And I love that they stuck with this mechanical design again for the folio. I know they went to the magnets for the A5X2, which I think is really cool as well. But I do like that they have kind of this mechanical, and I just noticed it now, this push button. It looks like you push to release, and then you pull that off. So let's watch that again and see what that looks like. And then Doris said, is the pin loop attached to the device itself? It seems that way. Yes, they do mention that it is mechanically attached and you can remove it if you don't want it. And it really looks like that's what's going on here. So it's almost like they're doubling down on the, pull that down. It's almost like they're doubling down on what the original A5X and A6X had, which was the mechanical attachment of the folio. And then they're adding in a mechanical attachment for the pin loop. So it kind of fits into that whole ethos of RADA and Supernote to me, which is they want you to be able to engage with the device in the way that you want to engage with your device. So they don't force you to set it up with a cloud account. They don't force you to use their apps. They don't force you to use a Google Calendar or a Outlook calendar or OneDrive or Google Drive, but they allow you to do all of those things. So I think that's kind of an interesting way of approaching this. So here, if you don't want the folio, you press the button, you pull it off, you don't need a folio, but you can still put it flat on a surface and it's non-stick or it's non-slip. And I think that's really an innovative way of thinking about it. If you want the pin loop, you can have the pin loop. If you want to alter the size of the pin loop or change the pin loop out, you can create your own custom pin loop and put that on there. So kind of a neat way of doing that. And I know the A6X2 was criticized a little bit for having the larger pin loop. Primarily, I think that was to accommodate the Lamy stylus. But at the same time, again, they're trying to think through, with just some small design tweaks, some interesting things.